Steve, it's Jimmy Carter. How you doing?
I'm fine, sir. Thank you, Mr. President, for joining us this afternoon.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Before we talk about the elections in Israel going on right now and both parties claiming victory at this point,
Right.
I wanted to just start out by asking you, after all these years and so many setbacks, I'm wondering how you're still so positive about the prospects for a permanent solution there in the Middle East.
Well, first of all, I haven't had any personal setbacks because when I left the White House a long time ago, we had lined up a very successful peace agreement between Israel and Egypt.
Right.
And had commitments from Israel to do other things concerning the Palestinians, which they did not do. But since then, you're right, there have been very few steps forward. The only one that's notable was 1993 when the Norwegians negotiated the so-called Oslo agreements. Mm-hmm. Since then, we've pretty well been bogged down with a constant squabble between Israelis and all their neighbors. In fact, Lebanon and Syria are officially at war with Israel right now. And as you know, between Israel and the Palestinians, there's been no progress lately. And what has happened in that time is that Israel has continued to confiscate land inside of Palestine, that is the West Bank in particular, and occupied with settlements and so forth, which has made it seem that Israel is moving toward a so-called one-state solution, that is just one nation between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. And all the top Israeli leaders, as I quote in my new book, see that as a catastrophe for Israel, but they haven't been willing to turn around. There's already a majority of non-Jews in that one-state area, and there will soon be a clear majority of Arabs, and their population is increasing rapidly. So Israel would either have to run them out, which the other surrounding nations don't want to accept, or they'd have to deprive them of a right to vote, which would not be acceptable by the international community, or have to accept the fact that the Jews will be outvoted in their own country. So they have to move toward a two-state solution. So one of the major factors now that has evolved is a decision by Israelis increasingly that a two-state solution must be enforced. And the outline of a two-state solution is very clear, as expressed in my book in some detail, but also the official policy of the U.S. government, the so-called roadmap of the international community, and the unanimous vote of all Arab countries is almost, all those three are almost identical to each other. So whether Israel will accept that or not, that's a big question to be decided in the future.
Well, speaking of the future, with Barack Obama's election, do you think his administration will have a little more capital, an opportunity to make progress more than we've seen recently?
Yes, that's the most encouraging thing that's happened, I think, in the last 16 years was the election of Obama, because he promised me during his campaign and told the public as well that he would start working on the Mideast peace process as soon as he was inaugurated. And as a matter of fact, on Inauguration Day, he made calls to top leaders throughout the Middle East. And then his appointment of George Mitchell, the former senator, to be his so-called peace envoy or mediator, was a startling and wonderful move. He's probably the best American to be chosen for that role. So I think there's no doubt that Obama is going to put this at a top priority among his international issues. But, of course, for the first few weeks, he's basically occupied with getting the stimulus package and dealing with the economy. Yeah. But George Mitchell has already made his first trip throughout the region just to kind of size up the situation. I've been in touch with him pretty regularly since he was appointed. And so I think that's a very good omen that Obama will make a major contribution, which was not made by his predecessors because most of them waited until the last few months of their terms.
Right, exactly. Now, quoting the Houston Chronicle, no American president has made more progress on or devoted more energy to achieving peace in the Middle East than Jimmy Carter. Had you at any time given any thought to taking the Mitchell role? Were you offered, or?
Well, I work for the Carter Center and for me,
right.
So I don't need and don't want any official position. I don't think that would be offered to me, and I wouldn't really want it. But that leaves me free to go where I want to meet with whom I choose, or to learn what I possibly can from all factors in the region, and then to share what I have learned with the top leaders who are making the decisions. So I have given President Barack Obama and also George Mitchell a thorough briefing on my trips to the Middle East region during the last year or so, less than a year, in April and again in December of 2008. And this has had some good results. We were able to get a ceasefire started in Gaza for the first time, and we got a commitment from Hamas leaders as well, a public commitment, that they would accept any peace agreement that's negotiated between the Palestinians and Israel, provided the Palestinian people in the West Bank and Gaza approve the terms of that treaty or agreement in an open and free and fair referendum. And that's a role that the Carter Center can continue to play. We've monitored all three elections in the Palestinian region that they've ever had.
The book is called We Can Have Peace in the Holy Land, a plan that will work. President Jimmy Carter with us on the drive this afternoon. And you're going to be at Book Passage in Corte Madera tomorrow. Or no, that's, Thursday the 12th at 7 p.m. So everyone has a chance to come out and meet and greet with Mr. Carter and get a copy of the book. That's 7 p.m. Thursday at Corte Madera Book Passage.
And I really look forward to that. Thank you.
You bet. Now, are you surprised that more progress hasn't been made since the Camp David Accords? And who might you point out as being sort of responsible for not doing enough?
Well, when I left office, I thought that it would be, all the terms would be implemented. The terms between Israel and Egypt, not a word has been violated in the treaty that I negotiated. The agreement to take care of the Palestinians, that is, to give them full autonomy and to withdraw Israel's military and political forces from the West Bank, have not been honored by Israel. And I thought really that President Reagan would enforce the agreement that was worked out and approved by the Israeli Parliament and also by the British, and also, by the Egyptian Parliament. But he didn't take any interest much in the Mideast. And by default, that's when the Israelis have embarked on this policy of building a lot of settlements in Palestinian territory. So I've been a little bit disappointed during that time. I might say that George Bush Sr., George H.W. Bush, was very dedicated to this proposition, and he and James Baker, his Secretary of State, made substantial progress that really led to the so-called Oslo Agreement that was consummated in 1993 with a negotiation done by Norwegians. Since then, although President Clinton made an effort the last part of his term, not any agreement has been reached.
Yeah, in the book you say time is short. The opportunity for a genuine two-state solution is quickly slipping away. And is it realistic to expect that the Israeli government is going to force abandonment of most of those settlements?
Not without a strong role being played by the United States.
Yeah.
Because the answer to that is that a majority of the Israeli citizens are willing to swap land for peace. But of course we know that the complexity of the Israeli government structure and how the majority is put together is almost indecipherable to outsiders. I happen to understand it because I've been involved in it for 30 years. But we don't yet know the outcome of the election. And if Netanyahu and the more right-wing leaders and parties do prevail, then I think that will be a major setback. But it won't be a permanent setback because the people in Israel, the people in Palestine, the people in Lebanon, Syria, all want the same thing, and that is a peace agreement. And it's going to come eventually. I just hope it'll come, sooner than we think.